My name is Jenny and I am 26 years old. Our wedding day was simply everything I had ever dreamed it would be. As Alex and I stood hand in hand under the archway of blooming roses, our vows echoed softly. Under the big blue sky, our friends and family, gathered in a beautifully decorated garden, watched with teary eyes and broad smiles as we promised to love and cherish each other. The air was filled with the scent of summer flowers, the sounds of laughter, and the soft strains of the violin that seemed to weave magic into the atmosphere. It was a day filled with joy, a celebration of love in its purest form, embodying a new beginning. As Alex and I planned our wedding, the usual joys and stresses of preparing for such an event were accompanied by the subtle shadows of Alex's past. Hints of his old, hidden scars began to surface in the midst of conversations about table settings and guest lists. There were fleeting moments when his eyes would cloud over or he'd fall into a silence, seemingly struck by a memory. Only he could see that I noticed these instances, the small cracks in his otherwise sturdy facade. My heart ached to know what was bothering him, but I respected Alex. He was a man who cherished his inner sanctum, and I loved him all the more for his complexities. So, I did not push, choosing instead to focus on our love and the excitement of beginning our new life together. In the swirl of wedding preparations, my relationship with Mrs. Green, Alex's mother, took on a life of its own. She was more than just a future mother-in-law, she was a presence of warmth and understanding, a comforting anchor in the sometimes overwhelming sea of wedding decisions. Her intuition about people was uncanny, and her ability to navigate Alex's moods proved invaluable, especially as the wedding approached and his bouts of withdrawal became more frequent. One chilly afternoon, as we pored over an old family photo album looking for inspiration for our wedding slideshow, Mrs. Green shared stories of Alex as a boy, his mischievous smile, his boundless energy, and his quiet moments. She spoke with a nostalgic smile, but her eyes betrayed a hint of sadness, a mother's concern that had weathered many invisible storms. During these intimate gatherings, I began to understand the depth of their bond and how deeply the threads of past trauma were woven into the fabric of Alex's present being. This understanding became even more pronounced as she helped me navigate the complexities of bonding with a man whose heart had been scarred at such a young age. She had exquisite sensitivity in guiding me on how to be there for Alex, never overstepping, yet always providing just enough insight to help me connect with him on a deeper level. This delicate balance of distance and closeness in her guidance helped me to respect Alex's pace without feeling excluded. When it came time to select gifts for Alex, be it his birthday or Christmas, Mrs. Green proved to be an indispensable ally. She had a talent for knowing exactly what would touch Alex's heart with each gift. Each gift was not just a material object but a symbol, a message in a bottle cast into the depths of his heart, affirming love, understanding, and acceptance. Shopping for these gifts with Mrs. Green became our little tradition, filled with laughter and shared secrets, weaving me deeper into the family tapestry. The most memorable moment came a few weeks before the wedding. After a long day of finalizing seating arrangements and menu choices, Mrs. Green invited me to her house for tea. The house was quiet, a soft classical melody playing in the background, lending an air of serenity to the sunlit living room where we sat, surrounded by plants that thrived under her careful attention, reflecting the nurturing nature of her care. With a gentle, almost reverent tone, Mrs. Green said she had something special for me from an old family heirloom collection. She pulled out an ornately carved wooden box, then a small velvet pouch from it, and inside was a ring. A beautiful antique piece that had belonged to Alex's great-grandmother. The ring was delicate, its band worn thin from years of wear, yet its stones still caught the light with a fiery sparkle as she placed it in my hand. Her fingers lingered over mine, her touch conveying layers of meaning. "This ring," she began, her voice soft but clear, "is more than a family heirloom. It is a symbol of our love and trust in you, Jenny. It's a welcome to our family, a family that has weathered many storms, just like this ring. It is a testament not only to the past but also to the future we hope to build with you." The weight of the ring in my palm felt monumental, as if it encapsulated more than just family history. It was a binding promise, a token of faith. The ring, with its intricate engraving and warm golden hue, symbolized the merging of past and future, of memories and hopes. When I slipped it on my finger, it felt like a shield imbued with the strength and love of the women who had worn it before me. Tears welled up in my eyes as I looked up at Mrs. Green, overwhelmed by the depth of her gesture. Her eyes, meeting mine, reflected my emotions at that moment. I understood the sacredness of what she had given me. It was an affirmation of my place beside Alex, an affirmation of my role not only as his wife but as her daughter. "Thank you," I managed to say, my voice thick with emotion. "I promise to honor the love and trust you've placed in me." She nodded, her smile tender. "I know you will, my dear." On the morning of our wedding, the early sun painted the sky with pink and orange, promising a day as bright as love. Alex and I shared in the gentle breeze that whispered through the leaves, carrying the soft, melodious chirping of the morning birds. As I awoke, a flutter of excitement danced in my stomach and a smile spread across my face, the kind that comes from deep within, knowing that today I would marry the man I loved. The venue was nestled on the edge of a lush, sprawling garden bursting with life. Each petal and leaf shimmered in the warm glow of the sun. It was here, among the weaving paths and fragrant blossoms, that we had chosen to bind our lives together. The garden was more than a place, it was a reflection of our relationship, naturally blooming, beautiful, and wild. As the morning progressed, the air was filled with the sounds of preparation. The clatter of dishes, the soft rustling of floral arrangements being perfected, and the gentle instructions of the wedding planner created a symphony of anticipation as each vendor moved with purpose, using their expertise to turn our vision into reality. The tables were set with fine linen, each piece of cutlery placed with precision. Centerpieces of wild flowers and greenery adorned the tables, their colors popping against the crisp white tablecloths. The ceremony area was set in a quiet corner of the garden under a large oak tree, its branches stretching out as if to embrace the gathering. Beneath its sturdy branches stood a simple archway, decorated with white and soft pink roses intertwined with ivy and sprigs of lavender, which were arranged in a gentle arc. Each pew was adorned with a small bouquet of flowers tied with a ribbon, fluttering gently in the breeze. The guests began to arrive, their faces beaming with joy and their colorful dresses adding to the festive atmosphere. The hum of their greetings and laughter mingled in the background. Music, a carefully selected playlist of romantic tunes that Alex and I had spent nights curating, each song a memory, a piece of our journey, now played for all to hear, setting the stage for the promises we were about to make. As time drew closer to the ceremony, my heart began to beat a little faster. The reality of the moment was sinking in. Accompanied by my father, I took a deep breath and stepped onto the path that would lead me to the archway. The sight that greeted me took my breath away. There, waiting for me, was Alex, standing tall and confident, his suit perfectly tailored to complement him. His hair was neatly styled, and his face held an expression of awe and tenderness as he watched me walk down the aisle. The walk down the aisle felt like a lifetime and a moment all at once. With each step, I was getting closer not only to Alex but to the new life we would build together. The eyes of our loved ones followed me, but all I could see was him. As I reached his side, his hand reached out for mine, a silent promise of support and love. The warmth spread through me. The ceremony was a heartfelt exchange of vows that we had written ourselves. Alex's voice was calm but full of emotion as he spoke his vows. His words painted a picture of our past and a promise of our future, each sentence carefully chosen to convey his love and commitment. My vows echoed his in sentiment, spoken through tears that flowed freely down my cheeks. There was also laughter as we shared little anecdotes from our lives. Together, we made the ceremony deeply personal and joyfully authentic. As we exchanged rings, the symbol of our love and the seal of our vows, the oak tree above us seemed to stand a little taller, its leaves rustling as if in applause. The kiss that followed was both a seal of our promises and a celebration, met with cheers and applause from our guests. The reception that followed was a blur of dancing, eating, and heartfelt speeches. The first dance was to a song that had seen us through our hardest times. Its lyrics now a testament to the strength of our bond. As Alex spun me around the dance floor, the world fell away, leaving only the sound of the music and the feeling of being utterly loved. Our families and friends gave speeches that brought roars of laughter and tender tears. Each word spoken was a thread added to the tapestry of our day, weaving a memory that would last for years to come. The food was exquisite, each bite a burst of flavor, a celebration of our day. The cake, a simple yet elegant design of white frosting and flowers, was cut amidst cheers. Its sweetness was a perfect metaphor for the life that awaited us. As the day turned to evening, the lights dimmed to a golden hue, casting shadows that danced with the guests. Alex and I moved among our loved ones, our hearts brimming with happiness. Each moment felt suspended in time, from the heartfelt speeches that brought tears to our eyes, to our first dance, where we swayed to a melody that spoke only to our souls. The world around us faded into a backdrop of twinkling lights and soft music, with the only focus being the deep connection between us. As the night wore on and the last of the guests said their goodbyes, a subtle shift occurred. The exhaustion of the day's emotions and festivities began to settle in, and with it came a tension in the air, as if it were laden with unspoken words. I felt it most acutely when we finally retired to our room, the sanctuary where we had planned to celebrate our perfect day. But instead of the bliss I had expected, there was a palpable tension, a stirring of something deep and unnerving that I couldn't quite identify. Alex, who had been the bastion of strength throughout our relationship, suddenly seemed distant. His usual calm demeanor was replaced by a nervous energy that quietly buzzed under his skin. I had always known there were aspects of his past that shadowed his bright smile, hints of dark chapters he had never fully revealed. Our relationship had been built on a foundation of deep mutual respect and understanding, and I had learned to navigate the delicate balance between his openness and the secrets he guarded. So much so that I always respected his privacy, never pushing for more than he was willing to share, understanding that some wounds were deeply etched into one's soul by experiences too painful to relive. The unexpected knock at our door came just as I was about to broach the subject that was hanging heavily between us. It was Mrs. Green, Alex's mother. Her presence on the threshold of our bridal suite was as surprising as the sight of my husband, whispering urgently to his mother in the dimly lit hallway. This was something I had not expected on our wedding night. The warmth and guidance that Mrs. Green always extended to me suddenly felt invasive. Her timing seemed inexplicable. "Mom, I can't come." "Can you?" came Alex's voice, barely a whisper, yet carrying a weight I had never heard before. His words, though softly spoken, seemed to fill the room, making the walls close in around us. My heart raced with a mixture of confusion and concern, questions forming faster than I could say them. As they stepped into our room, the space that had once felt like a haven now seemed too small, the air too thick, as if filled with the thick fog of impending revelation. Mrs. Green's presence had always been a source of comfort in the past, but now it marked a moment of unexpected interruption to what should have been a private celebration of our union. A sense of deep empathy, mixed with a mother's protective instinct, caused me to pause and reassess the situation that was unfolding before me. It was clear that this was not just an invasion of newlywed privacy, it was a necessary moment that Alex needed, more than I had realized. Mrs. Green's eyes flicked between Alex and me, with a mixture of apology and urgency. It was clear that this was not just an intrusion but a necessity, born of something deeper, something hidden in Alex's past. Alex, usually so composed, was distressed. He looked visibly shaken, his eyes pleading. Trying to understand what was happening, I managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper. The air felt thick with unspoken truths. With unspoken truths hanging in the air, the kind that could change the course of a relationship forever, there was a palpable pause, heavy with hesitation. Mrs. Green glanced at Alex, who seemed momentarily at a loss for words. His gaze was fixed on the floor, and then he gathered himself. With determination, she looked directly at me. Her voice was calm yet soft. "Jenny, there's something about Alex's past that you need to know, something he might have struggled to tell you himself." Her words were soft, but they cut through the silence like shards of glass. After a brief moment of silence, during which Mrs. Green seemed to be carefully calculating her answer, she turned to her son with wide eyes. "Wait. You told her about Alex? What were you thinking?" "The poor thing must think we were a couple." Alex looked deep into my eyes before he sighed and began to reveal his past. "When I was just 5 years old, the unthinkable happened. Intruders broke into our home through my bedroom window that night. Under the cover of darkness, my world was forever altered. The silhouette of the intruder, the menacing presence in my sanctuary, left me frozen in terror, unable to cry out or escape. The result was a deep, all-pervading fear that clung to me long after the broken glass had been swept away and the window secured. My bedroom felt like a battlefield, every shadow was a reminder of my vulnerability. Sleep, once a refuge, became an insurmountable challenge. But in the midst of my fear, my mother became my rock. Night after night, she sat by my bedside, her presence a beacon of safety in the darkness. With the soothing lilt of her voice, she spun tales of courage and the adventures of heroes who faced their fears and emerged victorious. These bedtime stories became more than just stories, they became our ritual, a shared experience that helped me find my way back to a sense of normalcy and safety. My mother's unwavering patience and love taught me that there is a source of strength within us, even in the face of paralyzing fear, a resilience that can be nurtured. Since that terrible night, Alex continued, my mother has been my steadfast companion in my search for peace. As I fall asleep, her presence reminds me that even in our darkest moments, we are not alone. The revelation of Alex's childhood trauma had filled the room with a solemn air, heavy with the rawness of newly shared pain. As Alex's secret unfolded, my initial reaction was one of shock, the kind that sends a chill through your very core. And it wasn't just because of the horror of what he had endured, but because of the depth of his hidden scars. I trembled slightly as the reality set in, that this man I loved so deeply, who always seemed so strong and calm, had carried this heavy shadow for so long. The weight of his past, a burden he had carried in solitude, now lay between us. But instead of being a barrier, it bridged our hearts. With a newfound understanding, I felt a deep pain for him, the child who had faced such terror, and the man who had grown up in the shadow of fear. But within that pain was a blossoming determination, a resolve to be the support he needed, the partner he deserved. Alex looked into my eyes and saw the empathy there, vulnerability written all over his face, and asked a simple question. A question that encompassed so much, can I help you? His words, meant to be a sign of his habitual protectiveness, only underscored the role reversal we were experiencing. He was still trying to be the protector, the provider, even in his moment of revelation. It's not about how you can help me, but how I can help you, I replied. I gently took his hand in mine. The contact was a small physical reassurance that I was there, fully present and ready to face this battle at his side. Mrs. Green, who had been a quiet pillar of strength, raised her voice. Calm and reassuring, she provided the guidance we needed. Whenever Alex felt anxious or overwhelmed, especially at night, cuddling has always helped calm him down, she explained. Hold him close with his head resting on your heart, it's a comfort that has soothed him since childhood. I nodded and took her advice with the seriousness it deserved. Although he has largely outgrown the need for it, his anxiety can still overwhelm him during stressful times, she continued. She went on to say that it was important to be patient, understanding, and offer physical reassurance. This approach has often been the key to helping him find peace and sleep. Armed with this new knowledge, I turned to Alex and invited him into an embrace that I hoped would provide not only comfort but also a refuge from his fears. He hesitated for a brief moment and then allowed himself to be held. As he laid his head on my chest, I could feel his body tense like a bow, his muscles taut with the effort to maintain his composure. As we remained locked in this embrace, I felt the tension begin to dissipate from his body. His breathing slowed to match the steady beat of my heart. The room, still echoing with the memories of our wedding celebrations just hours before, now resonated with a quieter, deeper connection. Each heartbeat seemed to carry a whisper of reassurance, a rhythmic reminder that he was safe, that he was not alone. In that moment, as I held Alex, the significance of what we were doing dawned on me. This was not just about providing comfort in a time of need, it was a profound act of sharing and healing. We were rewriting the narratives of his past fears with a new story, one of trust, support, and unconditional love. As Alex's breaths deepened and calmed, signaling his drift into sleep, the weight of his worries seemed to dissipate, lifting not only from his shoulders but also from the air around us. I felt a protective surge, a fierce desire to protect him from further pain and a commitment to be the partner he could lean on whenever the shadows of his past resurfaced. Mrs. Green had watched the transformation from the sidelines. She gave a silent nod of approval and gratitude before quietly leaving the room. Her departure was a discreet, respectful acknowledgement of the new intimacy that Alex and I were forging. The expression on her face as she left was one of peace, and the relief of a mother was palpable in her eyes, knowing her son was in caring hands. The impact of that night lingered long after Alex had fallen asleep and the first light of dawn crept into our room. Awake, I thought about the journey ahead. It would require patience, empathy, and an unwavering commitment to understand and heal the scars of a trauma I had never experienced. But more than anything, I felt ready to be the partner Alex needed, to walk alongside him as we navigated the complexities of his healing together. The vulnerability he had shown and my response to it did not weaken our bond, instead, it strengthened it. We were no longer simply husband and wife. We were partners on a journey of healing, learning to understand each other more deeply each day as we confronted his fears and anxieties. Together, our connection deepened, evolving from romantic love to something much deeper, a sanctuary, a safe haven where we could be our true selves without fear of judgment. That tender, pivotal night not only marked the beginning of our marriage but also the deepening of our bond, a testament to the power of shared vulnerability and mutual support. It underscored a fundamental truth about love, that it is most powerful not in the easy, joyful moments, but in the quiet, challenging ones, when we choose to stand together and face the hidden struggles with resilience and hope. As dawn broke over the horizon, painting the sky with the hues of new beginnings, I knew that together we were stronger. This experience taught us that love is not only about sharing joy and happiness but also about bearing each other's deepest fears and standing firm in the face of personal demons. It's about building a life where each person feels supported and understood, a foundation so strong that even the darkest past could not destabilize it. Our story, though rooted in pain and vulnerability, is ultimately a triumph of love's power to heal and transform. It stands as a testament to the fact that the deepest intimacy comes from baring one's soul and being met with compassion and unwavering support. As Alex and I continue to grow together, we cherish the lessons learned from that night, a night that began with uncertainty but ended with the comforting understanding that together we are invincible. This story of our first night captures the essence of our ongoing journey, a story of confronting shadows, nurturing understanding, and celebrating the healing power of love.